one question that came in literally 10 minutes before we started filming this is all about developing countries. And this isn't going to be useful for obviously people that aren't in developing countries, but it's still useful for them to know, because there are some things that we can talk about in this small segment that they can take value from. But in terms of operating an SMMA from a developing country, what are your big things to kick it off? I would say from a macro level, that it is kind of a very different blueprint that you have to follow, isn't it? Like it really is. But what would you say is the key things that people need to look out for, watch for, etc.?
What if you're wanting to start an SMMA?
Yeah. So if someone's in India thinking about starting an SMA, is trying to run an SMA, and they want to find clients, and I know they all want to find clients in the UK, US, and charge the high ticket clients. What are the biggest obstacles they're going to come into, or they might be facing now, and what can they do to get over it?
The biggest thing, one of the biggest problems they have, if you are in a developing country and you're looking to start SMMA, you have to make sure that you don't look like a scammer. So majority of scammers that are hitting people are from those countries, rightly or wrongly, but there's a huge influx of scammers. So what happens is the Western world has become quite edgy about it and cautious, which is absolutely right to be. I've been not caught myself. I know a friend of mine who was caught on scammers, and I had a phone call from someone who was in India trying to pretend that they worked for Microsoft and wanted all my passwords. So these are some things which you need to be aware of if you are and you legitimately want to start an SMMA, which you absolutely can do. However, it's making sure you look authentic and real. So how do you do that, Tom? Well, first of all, you need to have all your social pages in the right place. So we're looking at your Facebook and Instagram. They need to be really professional and authentic, okay? You then need to have a LinkedIn profile, and I'd say get a good LinkedIn profile. Have a good profile picture, have a good description of what you do, make sure you've got any previous work you've done. It has to look legit. You have to look real, okay? Sorry, my music is now playing on my my laptop. I don't know why this does this, Harry, but let me just turn it off.
Building on that point, mate.
Yeah,
it's a very good point. I don't know what it is that people in developing countries, they don't a lot of the time don't set up their pages in the correct way, and it's a huge thing. Like I had someone reach out to me saying, Harry, should I reach out to business owners on Instagram through this profile I'm talking to you on, or should I make an agency profile? And I looked on the profile he messaged me on, and his bio was smoke weed every day. What his Instagram bio that he wanted to reach out to business owners was smoke weed every day. Yeah, and it's like, how you got to take.
There's a lot. I do think people lack a lot of common sense.
Yeah,
and this
that's
is
not.
I think
that's in general. That's not.
I think this is in general. This is not an SMMA exclusive. I think most people who lack a lot of common sense.
Yeah,
and I think it's got worse with. And I'm not I really don't want to generalize, but actually you're in this age group, mate, because you're 23 years old. I think a lot of people who are 26 and below, maybe 28 and below, maybe sub 30, I don't know. I think they don't think correctly and they don't put themselves in other person's shoes. They just think about what they've heard or what they're regurgitating shit that they've heard on YouTube or on social media. It's embarrassing, but like, there's no common sense. So like that question there, should I reach out to this client from my agency page or my personal page? You should make that joke. You don't need Harry SMMA to tell you what you should do.
No,
that's a joke. For start, if that's what you're going for him for help with, of all the questions you could ask Harry in that DM, you ask him that. Like, it's just silly.
Yeah, I
think that I want to just touch back on making yourself look authentic in an SMMA from a developing country. It is a problem, but it's so doable. There is something called WhatsApp for Business. If you're thinking of doing outreach, you want to make sure you've also got WhatsApp for Business. I'm not on this podcast going to tell you what that is. Go and do your own research. Go on YouTube and type in what is WhatsApp for Business. You'll get all the answers you ever need. But it makes you look more authentic. Again, you can have a good personal profile on there. You can put your business name, information in there. Then you can text people in like US, UK, and make it really personal and actually get it's much more unlikely that a scammer would do that, you know. So
Yeah.
that's one way around it. Also, emails, you can do a huge amount of mass, you know, personalized mass emails if you've got the time. That again is with a link to your website, and you can have, there's a question there: should you have a website? Should you not? You need a point of reference, particularly if you're in a developing country. I don't think it's needed for US, UK. I think the more you have to show to someone, I'm a real person who just wants a really good opportunity to work with your business, and I am totally legit, then that is your main focus, is to ensure that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think something that you said there, putting yourself in the business owner's shoes for them specifically is really, really important, because you've got to think to yourself, and this is just being self-aware in the business that you're running. If you're starting a developing country and you want to find clients in the UK and US, which you will because they pay you more, you've got to think, why would they work with you over an SMMA in the UK and US if you're charging the exact same fee? Why would they? So there's a mirror image of someone in India, in the UK, both of them going after UK businesses. Why would they go for you in India over someone in the UK on the same time zone, charging the same price? Really, unless you're showing skills way above them, which you very easily can, then that's how you're going to win the business. But if you're not, then they're not going to go for you, because you're charging the same. They've got to deal with the time difference, probably a language barrier. So you've got to make sure your English is impeccable. They're not going to trust you running ads and marketing campaigns if you don't speak impeccable English and can write impeccable English. They're just not going to want it for obvious reasons. And you should agree the same. Common sense should say, obviously they're not. So you've got to make yourself stand out, which is why a lot of people in developing countries charge a lot less, because that's how they stand out from the crowd. So there are a lot of things that you just need to be self-aware about if you're in a developing country running an SMMA to get those high ticket clients. And to get those high ticket clients, there's no different really for the way you communicate with them is no different. The channels are very different. The blueprint to get clients from a developing country is different because the channel's different. But in terms of what you say, yes, there's the caveat of, notifying to them that you can, that you're in a developing country, and it makes it slightly more difficult. But in terms of how you actually sell, the processes are still the same, aren't they? Like for me, you take through the same sales presentation, the same. It's just that initial barrier to get over the fact you're in a developing country is where the different blueprint comes into play.
It is completely. There's other things like having a domain. You've got to have a .com domain, and I would say you need to. That again goes back to being as authentic as possible when you're in a developing country. But there is an element also that you need to, like you just touched on. If your English isn't good and you're ringing people in Western countries, and you are gonna, I would say just don't waste time, because unfortunately. And let me just get something straight on this podcast. I want nothing but success for those people in those countries.
Mate, you coached call centers in India.
I went to, and there's a guy called Brad, a friend of mine who I bumped into the other day, who's looking to get into what we do. Brad was a sales coach with me, and a guy called Mark. We went to India and we trained a huge call center in Trivandrum, which is in Kerala. And we went there and we were doing mass amounts of training on insurance, home insurance, car insurance, teaching them about like keywords, things like what a roundabout is and what just I can't remember now because this was back in 2008, but we were teaching them the modernized world and some of the language we would use. They also used like an English name, all of them. So, they would say, my name is Chris and I'm calling from blah, 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 when actually the name was Benoit. Okay. That's common practice. It's not a shameful thing. It's just making yourself a little bit more westernized. And this is what I've talked about in one of the courses that we have for people in those countries. That's super, super important to do. But when I was there training, I've seen firsthand the struggles, the utter struggles. And if your English isn't good enough, it's going to be such a tough ask for you, because people from the Western world, our patience with that, anyone who doesn't speak English, our patience levels are very, very short. And that's really awful to say, but I want nothing but success for people in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh who want to make legitimate money online by helping businesses market themselves and to grow. you know, because just to get 3 or 4 clients in India is a huge, depending if the money's right, it's a huge amount of money. And I really want those countries to develop, and those people in those countries to develop.
Yeah,
but it is hard. But they're also sometimes not willing to listen either. And I find that you have to tell. We get a lot of questions from people who say, "Look, I'm in India. How can I do this? How can I do this?" And they ask me the same question like 20 times, and I'm like, "You're not listening to me. I'm telling you this for a reason." And they almost think, "Well, you don't know my situation, so you know you don't know how hard it is. But what else would you recommend?" I'm like, "No, just do what I'm asking you to do." And I think that comes from a lack of belief in them too, where they're almost writing themselves off.
No,
I've got an
definitely.
amazing, like we said, we have it in our course. We have and we're not here to plug the course, but there is a course that we have, which in that we tell them there's a really simple strategy you can actually implement being in those countries, and it'll get you a 20 times better return.
Yeah, I don't mean
it's such a it's not flawless, but it's such a good method.
Yeah,
because it cuts out communication issues straight away.
Yeah, and I don't want this podcast to be us plugging courses in our mentorship program, but I think now probably is an appropriate time to talk about that, because I don't. Yeah, fuck it. We are. Let's talk about it, because the course we put together, we spent weeks and weeks and weeks, probably no months actually, because including the planning, putting together a course which didn't cost a fortune. It's $97 rather than our main program, which is $597, which is way underpriced because of how much mentorship you get within it. But this SMMA training for developing countries is put together with everything you need to get your agency off the ground in a developing country. It is exclusively for developing countries. If you check the website, and there'll be a link below, we literally say, if you're not in a developing country, do not buy this course, because everything in it is there to build the correct foundations for you to build your agency in the right way and scale your agency in the right way and get clients in the right way and get clients in.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a course that's designed on process, not mentorship.
Yes.
For those who are wondering. So it's all showing you the processes of what we do, but you don't get the mentorship with it, because it's a $90, $97 course, whatever it is, I can't remember. But it's not. It's there just to show, here's all the process, here's all the do. Like, go out and do it and give it your best shot. And it's a small, it's not a small investment to them, but it's way smaller than that.
It's way smaller than, if you look at any training there are, from our market research, there's no one who has put the time and effort to really help you guys in developing countries like you and I, from that and comes from a good place. We'd love to. We
have enough help. They don't, because they get written off, mate.
They do, and we're not doing that. Yeah. So
guys, there's a lot of talented people. There's so many talented people.
People in developing countries, they're the hardest working people.
Hardest working, super intelligent, massive amount of drive and determination because they want to better themselves. And it does frustrate me that they don't. That it's a harder process for them. But you know, like you've just said, I've been there, witnessed it, seen it. I've worked there for a couple of months, and I felt when we took that idea to bring out that course, I really felt that this was we can really help people to get a grip on social media marketing and to put it into practice in the right way.
Yeah, and cut out all of the shit that people have fed them over the years and the bad practices that everyone that is in a developing country seems to follow. Yeah.
Also, going on that, they need to also, if you are in a developing country getting to SMMA, you need to expose yourself to ads and be more familiar with what type of copy and ads work too. And because the marketing in different, like, there's different marketing in Sweden, there's different marketing in Australia. There's things that work in Australia that wouldn't necessarily work in the UK. I think you're even allowed to swear on some ads in Australia. We couldn't have that over here. So I don't know if that's true. I'm sure that's the case. But you just have to expose yourself to what, if you're working with US and UK clients, you're going to have to understand what those type of ads look like.
Because the terminology is very different. Like, for an example, a lot of people in developing countries, I don't know whether this is, I've seen this quite a lot, where they'll say like, hello friends, hello friend, don't
Yeah.
they? That's a very common thing people
On
use.
like on an email.
Yeah, or hello sirs and stuff like that. Like you have to make sure you understand how people in different countries. We've come across this. Like when we first started working with clients in the US, we've had to adapt how we speak because we've written some ad copies for people in the US and they've gone, guys, this is way too English. And we've been like, oh, is it really? How's that too English? And then they explain it and you're like, oh, that is very English. Yeah. So this isn't exclusive to developed countries. That's a fact for everyone. If you're getting clients abroad, you need to understand how, and especially in the US, even state to state, because states talk differently as well, don't they? There's been things where people have told us little things that you could change. There's like, that's really going to connect with people in Texas or wherever.
Absolutely.
So that's not exclusive to developing countries. That's just in general.